Can I pray for us, though?
I would love that.
God, thanks so much for this time to be together. Thank you. God, you do weird things. You put people together. I mean, this just in this room is just these weird connections. And so we thank you. We thank you for this moment that we get to pause and get to know each other at a deeper level. And I just pray that this time that we spend together would just bless your heart. But also I pray that it'd be a great blessing to those who listen to it. We love you. We thank you. We give you all the glory, honor, and praise in the name of the Father, Son, and Spirit. Amen.
Amen. Yeah. Yep. Oh, we're good. We're so good. Hey guys, welcome back to Soulcare Conversations with me, Mindy Caliguire. And as you know, we're just always hitting this intersection between spiritual formation and leadership. And what I love about this is that I get to bring a lot of the conversations I'm very fortunate and blessed to have with many amazing people all over the country, all over the world, and share them with you. And usually I have a conversation with somebody that I've known for a while and I know their history and story, and you've probably heard some of those. Today, I get to have Jeff Gokee with me in from Arizona. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
And Jeff and I checked back my emails. Yeah. We've known each other or been in touch since 2022.
22. So I thought it was 21, so 22. Okay.
I think it's 2022 if I read correctly. Yeah. And we're introduced by some mutual clients and that kind of thing. But we've never sat down in the same room together. No. And we had a plan to do that earlier today, but it has been a terrible, awful, no good, very bad day. Mine started with backing my husband's truck into another car at the dog park.
Oh, no.
Great way to start the day. And then
Flight was delayed by like 2.5 hours. I thought I got a rental car that was supposed to be at the airport. It was 40 minutes away in downtown Denver.
Well done.
Yeah, I know. So by the time I landed, I was supposed to be in at like 11:30, and by the time I got in the car, it was 3.
Ooh,
so I'm
ouch.
like, there we go.
That's so painful. It's so real. And I would have loved to have had you brought up to the ranch and come see and all that. And when you called me at 3, and I was like, so where are you? And you were like, I'm in Denver.
Downtown Denver.
Like,
downtown Denver. That's not going to work.
We'll find another way to do that another time. So thanks for sticking with it and being with us here. And just gratitude all the way around. But these topics, I mean, there's a reason why we were chasing after a way to connect. And soul health and leadership is, I know we've had Zoom calls to talk about our stories, but to hear it again, a little bit about why you care about sort of both sides of those.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I grew up in the church my whole life, went to Moody Bible Institute downtown Chicago, met my wife there, had our first baby. So I always say I graduated, got with a diploma and a baby. So it was just like, I guess we're growing up. And took my first pastoral ministry there. And then I've been a pastor for 27 years, but I've always kind of been in and out. The longest stint I've ever had at a church was 4.5 years. And when I hit 40, I was in my last kind of ministry go at a church. And I was about 6 months in and I went, oh no, here we go again. And I had a really invasive thought. I thought, what if it's me? I had spent most of my life, I had fulfilled everything that everyone had wanted me to fulfill, or every dream that people had for me. So I always say I fulfilled everyone's dreams for me. And then at 40, and then it was never really working out.
Like, what's an example of somebody's dream for you?
Yeah, like, from the time I was 12, I was told I was going to preach the gospel, and I was going to, that's who I was going to be. And I was going to create amazing movements and things like that. And I've gotten to be a part of some really cool stuff. I'm going to preach around the world, and I've gotten to do that. So it's kind of like along the way, I've kind of hit everyone else's goals for me. And I think I kind of got lost in that. And so at 40, I kind of went, I think maybe there's something wrong, which I had never thought that. I never thought like something's wrong. I'd always had these like fat flash bang spirituality moments. Like I'd go to India and be like, oh my gosh, I feel like I met Jesus again all over again. And that's kind of like, I have these little benchmark, these little Ebenezers in my life that are like these flash bang moments. But at 40, I kind of went, I think there's something off. And I went and got counseling. And a part of the counseling experience was like, I didn't cry. I didn't cry up to that point. I really didn't have any emotions. My counselor said, so how does your wife handle you when you have a really bad day? And I was like, that's a great question. So yeah, I said, well, let me go ask her, And so I went home and I was like, hey, Patty, like, how do you deal with me when I have a bad day? And she said, when have you had a bad day? I had never come home and said like, I'm sad, I'm angry, I'm hurt, I'm confused. Never. I had just like, I'd
not even part of your lexicon.
No.
Like, those are not words that describe me.
No. And so I went back to my counselor. I was like, apparently I don't have any feelings, but like, and I was like,
conclusion.
Yeah. And a lot of it was unchecked grief. A lot of it was just my mom left when I was 12. And then I just went into go mode and never turned off. And so I did 6 years of counseling and a part of that journey was just kind of going like, what's going on inside that I've never, dealt with.
I love hearing you say that idea of go mode, like in talking to a lot of leaders.
Yeah.
And actually, we'll get to some of the findings that our team has been discovering over the last 6 to 8 months. Man, we just locked down.
Yeah.
We locked down for whatever reason. Choices we've made, things that were choices that weren't ours, but we lived into, and go mode is a great description for it.
Yeah.
So that can be kind of arresting to ever let go of that in favor of a less go mode.
Yeah. I was in 18, my counselor was like, how are you taking care of yourself? And I was like, I don't even know what that means, And so he's like, well, when's the last time you went to the doctor? And I was like, 10 years ago. He's like,
are you serious?
Yeah. So, and it's not even I have a problem with doctors, but again, it's kind of like, if it's not broken, don't try to fix it, So I'd only go to the doctor when stuff fell off. So, and so anyway, so I go to the doctor and they make all the, you've not been to the doctor in 10 years jokes. And they do all the scans and stuff. She comes back. She goes, hey, we think you have cancer. And so my wife and I go to the oncologist, and our son had cancer for 4 years, thank God. He's 22, about to get married, so we're grateful for that. But so we've been through that journey. So we go to the oncologist, and she's like, "Yeah, he says you have cancer." He goes, "How long have you been anxious?" And I said, "Never, not a day in my life have I been anxious." And he said, "You're really sick. You're really, really sick, and your mind has told you you're fine, you'll get through it, but your body's kind of going, all done." And I had about a month and a half where they were doing all this testing to figure out what version of it I was. And I realized I had never asked God for help. I've been asking God to help everybody else out. Help my family, help my son, heal this, help the church, help these people. But I never said like, I need help. And that was just the turning point. Sorry, that was 2019, not 18.
Okay, so 18 was when you finally went to the doctor.
Yeah, 19
you get a diagnosis that is coming with a point of view about your interior world.
Yeah.
That's not just...
Yeah. And then December 31st, 2019, we go in to get the final reveal of what our protocol, the whole thing. And he goes, I don't know how to tell you this, but it's gone. And I was ticked off because I was like, it felt so dramatic. It felt like this is what I have to go through to wake me up to go, there's something wrong. It just felt very dramatic.
Well, it is dramatic. That's extremely dramatic.
Extremely dramatic, yeah.
What kind of cancer did they originally think it was?
Well, it's called polycythemia, yeah. And it's basically, I get a rush of red blood cells and it kind of starts shutting down parts of your liver, I think, and then all of a sudden it becomes cancerous. So, so it was just like I go into 2020 with like
which there's nothing to be anxious about in 2020.
No, but I actually went my wife and I drove to Palm Springs because we were living in Rancho Cucamonga at the time, drove to Palm Springs, and I was like, God's been trying to speak to me for a long time. I don't think I've been listening. I've always loved the Lord. I've never felt like I've run away, but I'm not listening. I think I'm accomplishing, I'm doing, I'm achieving. And so that was kind of that turning point for me to go, I'm accomplishing a lot, but something's off. and I'm not paying attention. And so I was really afraid. And to this day, I wouldn't say I'm a fearful, but I don't want to go back. I don't want to, like a dog, return to its vomit and go like, here we go again. So I felt like, Eugene Peterson's like, I just want a long obedience in the same direction. I want that type of and so I started learning, practicing silence, practicing watching birds, and that's still a rhythm I have today. I say my front porch is the Holy of Holies. Like it's where I meet the Lord. I go out there every morning and just try to turn off and listen and be. And so anyway,
you felt that you were starting to come to a conclusion that maybe God was trying to get your attention and had something to say.
Yes.
What was he saying?
I'd interviewed at a church one time. And I was sitting with the head, a very well-known senior pastor, and he said, "Hey, Jeff, you have nothing to prove and no one to impress." And I was even praying that before I came in here. Like you've got nothing to prove and no one to impress. And I think for most of my life, I think it's been some version of that, like trying to show God that I'm a good pastor, show all these people that I'm a good pastor, show my wife that I'm a good husband, show my kids that I'm a great father, so it's just been this.
It's a lot of pressure.
A lot of pressure. And so I think a part of it was going like him just saying, I just want to take care of you. Like, I just love you outside of all of that. You're going to do fine. You're just going to do fine. Look how much patience I had on the disciples.
Yeah. That he pulled out the dramatic way to make that case for you.
Yeah. And instead of me getting angry about that now, I kind of go, well, I'm kind of dramatic,
That fits your personality.
It fits my personality.
He knows how to communicate with you.
Exactly. So that's that old, watch God watch you.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, sometimes I have to wake you up a little bit. Sometimes I have to get you to, get your chin up. I love you that much that you do that. And I'm so grateful that you listen, that you're paying attention. Yeah. And so that's been the second half of kind of my spiritual journey, is going like, okay, I got to get my chin up. I think it's been so down trying to do the work and help and all the good things. But I want my chin up a bit. And I think that's a part of it.
But good to an extent. My story personally relates as well to a health implosion when I was much younger than a decade younger than you were at that time. And similarly incapacitated for a relatively long time, with no answer. So it wasn't a cancer thing, but it was neurological, and they didn't know if it was going to get better or whatever. And it is arresting. And it caused me to have different conversations with God than I had before.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this is not strategic. Can you imagine?
Oh man, and I wanted it to be strategic. I know.
God, what is and is not strategic. It's just ludicrous. But we recognize each other in it, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the journey for you out of that started with maybe it's me, maybe I'll find a therapist helping you go, you got no pulse emotionally. You might want to think about that. And then what are you doing to take care of yourself? Get you to a doctor.
Yep.
Doctor gives you a diagnosis that is harrowing, especially because you'd been through that with your son.
Yeah.
And now you're like, wait, I think God's trying to talk.
Yeah. And then 2020 hits, and, kind of all the things that I had kind of valued leadership wise were kind of removed. And I just started walking with people. And it really recovered this kind of pastoral calling, which so much of what I've done, I've always had a pastoral heart, but within an institution that kind of said scale and big. And I like that, I've enjoyed that. And, but this pastoral part kind of always got, I always say like, you typically don't get super rewarded for this pastoral heart.
No, I was going to say, if you can win at that game, at the bigger, better, stronger, faster, more services, more preaching, more whatever, and you're good at it, there's not really many invitations to the slower, more personal.
But that, what's so interesting about that is I could never completely abandon that part of me. And I just find there's so much grace in that. Like I don't think it. I think there's a part of me in there that just went, no, I can't do that. But I think the Spirit was just like, yo, dude, this is who you are. you know? And so I think in 2020, as I started just walking with people and praying with people and helping people, and then Hosea 6:1, come, let's return to the Lord, for he's wounded us so he can heal us. He's broken us so he could bandage our wounds. That passage was like putting on x-ray glasses and seeing what was happening in my life, in the church. So in many ways, I felt like an archetype of what was happening across the country.
Yes.
And then just going like, oh man, maybe I'm supposed to do something about that. So that was the next part of that journey. But really, Hosea, 8 months later, was studying through Hosea, and that passage came up, and it was like, whoa. And maybe I'm supposed to participate in that, you know,
I think that's
as
a
an
really
archetype.
interesting thought, is the archetype, the wounded healer. in
Yeah,
many ways.
100%.
You know, it's like, and I like what you said about X-ray vision. It's like our world, the Christian church space, leadership space, you know, which I love and has formed me, and
Same.
that's part of who I am. And it's not to be dismissive
No.
of that, but when you have this vision, you see the people who are part of that still differently.
Yeah.
Or at least you may not see inside necessarily, except you know maybe what to look for a little differently.
Yep.
I've often said that I feel like and 2020 was a bit of this for me, but the what do we call it? The zombies?
Yeah.
The zombie pirates.
Oh, yeah.
In Pirates of the
Yeah,
Caribbean.
yeah,
We
yeah,
just watched this over Christmas with my kids. It was so fun. Great movies. But the zombies reminded me of the Valley of Dry Bones. And that's where I feel like in my history and story, just how many times I've been asked to go walk amongst a staff or a team or a individual's story, and you're just walking back and forth in this Valley of Dry Bones, but you don't, like, actually they kind of look like the Pirates of the Caribbean guys that are all active and they're moving and they're fighting and they're talking and they're
It's so
arguing
true.
and they're doing all the things.
It's so true.
Until you see them in the right light, the moonlight. The moonlight comes out and all of a sudden you see them for what they are.
What's it feel like for you personally to be invited into that space?
It's kind of terrifying and kind of fulfilling because, you know, at the end of but as I was in my own recovery, waking up to more contemplative practices, waking up to, gosh, what does it mean that God's just with me right now? And that all this doing is lovely, but it should come out of overflow, not effortful. And so it along that way, I remember praying because I like you, I really resonate with the, like, I'm not asking for help. It's my job to help everybody else.
Exactly.
Obviously, if nothing's falling off, obviously.
Yeah.
But at this point I couldn't.
Well, and I keep getting rewarded.
Yeah. More applause. She's got it. She's got everything. Well, you do everything we throw at you. Works out great. I was like, why do I love that so much? It's such a mess. Anyway, through that, I everything falls apart, and I'm gradually, slowly, my world is narrowing, and I'm just keyed in on what is God asking me right now? How am I connected with Him? Living differently in my own skin and with other people and with God. And yet in the darkest times when I was scared to pray for healing, because I was like, I know you don't heal everybody. I'm not pretending this is the most dire issue globally. But on balance, I really would prefer to have my life back.
Yeah.
And that was my, like, I want to ask. I want to ask God. And if He doesn't, I'm cool with his call, but I do desire my life back. And I remember, I think it was the Holy Spirit must have given me this idea, and I've probably said it before, maybe even here, but, God, I know you don't heal everybody, but if you do choose to heal me, would you please make it matter that I went through this?
We say in the Gokee family, we say, don't waste the pain.
Yeah.
Could we not waste the pain?
Yeah. But I didn't have the rallying strength to make that happen. It was the cry of my heart. And so to answer your question about how do I feel when I get invited into those rooms, sometimes it feels like of course that organization is ready to talk about it. Because like you in 2020, I started making some pretty significant vocational shifts to align with what I felt had always been heart cry, my own story, but there was a moment in the body of Christ that it was time to step into. And so that, I think that's what
we initially bonded on, because I think there's a lot of crazy in that. You know, my wife and I just celebrated 27 years of marriage, and we went away at the end of December. And I was like, I moved our family from California back to Arizona, and I started something that was like, I don't know.
I think that's when you and I had a Zoom call. You're like, I don't really know what's going on here, but I think this is the right thing.
But I moved my whole family here to do something that I felt so deeply, but then just like, what does it look like? How do you do it? Like, how does that work out? And I was, at that point and still very mindful of the fact, like, I want to make something happen. And what I don't want to do is sit around with a bunch of people and go, tell me how you're feeling. And, you know, that was I've been doing this my whole life. And I think in the season of coming back, it was more not creating a thing and really sitting with people and go, what do you need? Yeah. How can I help? With individuals and with churches. Yeah. Like, what do you need? How can I help?
Such a different mode. And even those individuals in churches, kind of like when we were first in deficit and aware of it, we wouldn't have known how to answer that question either. Exactly. And a lot of times the people we're talking to, we're saying, what do you need? And they're like, a fourth service, more parking. I mean, you know, it's like, what are the answers that we always are dealing with? Yeah. And it's not that those are not real or insignificant, but they're not used to thinking about this whole category. Mm-hmm. So tell me more about the moment of like, like, I don't even know what words to put around it.
Well, I had two roads.
Burning the bridges. Yeah. You know,
I had two paths. Yeah. And one of them was, I'll go be a senior pastor of a church of a guy who's like done. Like, that was the last go for him. I'll step into that kind of chaos and lead through that. The other road was, I'll relaunch the nonprofit I had started in 2010 with a friend of mine called Phoenix One. And in 2010, it was a gathering of young professionals helping reintegrate them back into the local church. It was awesome. Ecumenical, missionally ecumenical, awesome.
And it had been it
was successful. One of the largest gatherings of young professionals in the country at the time. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll bring it back, but I'll bring it back
with a different purpose.
Yeah, with a different purpose. We'll rewrite the bylaws. So in the process of that, I got brought out to a church for a week and a half or 2 weeks because their pastor had just said, I'm done. And so I went out to lunch with him and I said, what happened? You know, what happened? And he just said, man, I stopped taking care of my soul. I read every business book. I went to every leadership conference, and I didn't take care of my soul, and it wore out my wife, it wore out my kids, and I think I'm like kind of done. And on the flight home, I wrote the first business plan for Phoenix. I was like, that's it. I want to do that with the rest of my life. Great. I don't know what that looks like, but I want to do that. I want to help that guy. Yeah. So he stays in ministry. He stays married. Yeah. His kids just love Jesus as a result of watching his mom and dad commit their lives to Christ first and to the family and to the body of Christ. But, you know, I just thought, man, that guy, you know, so he's always in my head of going, that guy is what, and it was God's
Jeff,
timing.
I love this. Yeah. I love this. And I want to press in further about the timing of what it specifically was. And then of course get to where it's at today. This is the conversation we've been trying to have for years. But I was just thinking a thought. That guy and that business plan. It strikes me that, like, because I've been in this conversation for a very long time, got to meet and know, as maybe you have as well, but a lot of these forerunners who were thought leaders that were cage rattlers saying, it can't keep happening. Yeah. This can't keep happening. And we're sometimes listened to, sometimes disregarded. They didn't speak the language of church leadership for the most part, not always. And, you know, you've heard me joke before that I feel like I personally in our organization, we tend to be like this translator. We sit in this translator space between the candle lighters and the spiritual formation types, more contemplative. They are just going to ask how you feel and light a candle and maybe not talk at all. And we're cool with that. That's like one whole like cohort of people. And then there's the jet fuel drinking, the leap tall buildings in a single bound, globe trotting. Scale. And capacity that is legit and real and not false. And these two tribes, they sort of need each other, but they don't trust each other. They don't speak the same language. Anyway, I got to know a lot of those sort of candlelighter thought leaders, and which I loved and greatly valued, and it shaped me, as had the jet fuel drinkers. But it seems to me that you and a few others, myself vocationally at this juncture in like around 2020, we're starting to move into the implementation side.
Yes.
Of, if this is true about the soul, if this is true about our life with God, if this is true about what leadership could or should be, we were lacking examples or handles or pathways, practices, guides. How do we get there? Because increasingly the fruit of all that thought leadership from the candlelighters, if I can be so silly with those metaphors, is that their thought leadership was starting to drip into our leadership cultures. At least I would say for mine, and I'm guessing yours as well.
Me too.
And so there was enough of a yes, but how going on. Yes, but how? And so anyway, tell me more about that, maybe that flight home, or what date did the bylaws change? When did you sell the farm and move?
Yeah. Well, I would say it's harder to relaunch a nonprofit than it is to start one.
Is that true?
Oh man, it was so hard. Yeah, because you got to call back the former board. They got to re-vote on the new bylaws. I mean, it was a whole thing. So that happened November 2020, and I didn't have a single donor, and I and I had a guy that had done Phoenix One with me when in its first iteration. I had called him and said, "Hey, would you want to do it with me?"
Yeah.
And he was like, "Yeah, I want to do it with you." And then, so literally, I'm like on a Zoom call with leadership of the church we were at, kind of letting them know what my next step was. And I'm going, I'm jumping out. I have no idea. And he's calling me on the phone, and I'm going, he knows I'm in this meeting. I'm like, why is he calling me? So I hang up the phone, and he said, "You're not going to believe this. Somebody just wrote us a check for $50,000. So it was like this weird little, and then there were so many little moments like that I just went like, okay, this is jumping in the deep end of the pool, and I don't even know what to pray other than I'm just going to keep moving forward in faith. I always say like it's like John the Baptist on the water is an interesting scene for me because I have his toes over the edge of the boat, and I have all the disciples in my mind going, "What are you doing? Like that's ridiculous."
Peter?
Or Peter, sorry.
Yeah. So he's like looking out.
Yeah, like, and he's like, if you call me out here, if you call me out here, and I can hear the disciples all going, "This is ridiculous. What are you doing? Like it's a ghost. What are you doing?" And then he takes that step out, and I love that moment because I'm like, it doesn't make sense. Nothing about that makes sense. And I'm sure the people that are in his ear going, that doesn't make any sense. So that's kind of what that felt with. And yet we were watching God kind of do that.
That. And I love that you had set that direction. Mm-hmm. You had made that decision. And that's when the provision, or at least some of the provision came. That's
it's true.
It's not everything you've needed.
It's true.
But it was a start.
And for the last 5 years, everything you said is true. I've felt like a crazy person.
Yeah.
Like John the Baptist, like a voice in the wilderness.
Yeah.
In many ways. Like you're offering medicine to people who are sick who go like, I think I'm great. I think everything's awesome. And so in many ways, I definitely relate with that of going like, but I think it's one of those places like, again, you get to the prophets, and as you walk through the prophets, you're like, there's a real reason why Jeremiah was like, I'm just constantly crying, because I love so much. I'm hearing from God, I'm seeing things clear, but yet the people are really struggling with this message. And so
seems like maybe you've had a lot of opportunity to use all those new emotions.
Oh, I always say, my wife and I always go, man, emotions suck.
Yeah, like, you remember those days when I didn't feel?
Remember the good old days when we just got stuff done and we moved things forward, and we were like, what's wrong with them? Now I have to grieve and lament, have to join Jesus
Just
over, looking over Jerusalem and grieving. Like, it's like, oh, geez, but I feel a lot more human now.
Yeah. And I'm sure the empathy that comes with that allows you to sit with people who maybe have varying degrees of awareness of what they need.
Yeah. And I was wondering for you, getting back to Hosea, one of the things I was asking Lord for help, like how I'm trying to figure out how to get my head around this. So I'm curious for you. I realized like God has Hosea marry Gomer to go, I want you to feel what I feel. Mm-hmm. And I think in the archetype space, I think I have felt that. Like him going, I want you to feel what I feel for the church. I want you to feel what I feel for staff. I don't know if you have that same...
That's a deep thought, my friend. That is a really deep reality. I do feel often that kind of ache. That ache for how impossible the situations people find themselves in can feel. I feel the ache for, and that's sort of the ache on their side, what feels achy, but also the ache is what you're describing is of, like, this is as near as your breath. Could you just lift your head up for a minute and take a breath? Maybe you can't get a full sabbatical and you can't get a Sunday off and you can't get 2 weeks vacation or whatever else it is that you might need. But like, is not God looking out over our world saying, people, my most devoted followers, my most energetic people, please just breathe.
Yeah.
Just breathe.
That's what I feel.
Go
like.
Look at the birds.
Return to me.
Yeah.
Return to me. Come back to me. I want your hearts.
Yeah. I do believe that. And I do sense that from time to time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I have been curious over these years that there have been as many open doors as there have.
Same.
And so I believe God is doing a new thing. That's why he's raising someone like yourself up and this organization up and ours and 100 others that need to be existing in order to meet what I believe is coming in terms of this tidal wave of healing that is coming to the people.
Wait, I thought we were done. I thought we got through 2020. Everything's fine.
Oh, gosh, no. No. I got to the end of 2020, and I remember writing in my journal because I counted. Like, I was in leadership at a pretty intense, high intensity, wonderful company. Friends I loved, but like, I'm on the executive team. It's a pretty intense schedule. And during 2020, I'm bringing a product into market. So we're finishing the software development. We're setting up the marketing. We're getting it into churches and all this other stuff. It was great. It was super fun. And at the same time, the world's on fire. And churches are saying, hey, would you come and do this with our team? Would you come and do this all virtually, right? Like, this. Would you be on this webinar? Would you do this? And the need was urgent because I think you said something like this, but it's like all the things that kept everybody moving were gone. And some of the pain they couldn't ignore anymore. Plus they were trying to hold up their communities. They were trying to, all this stuff. It was really intense, as we all know. But because everything was virtual, I could click out of my software development meetings and then click into a webinar with somebody or something about Soulcare or something about helping a church staff or a nonprofit do a retreat because it was all virtual. And I got to the end of that year and I thought I was sending out a note to the prayer team. Our prayer team has been praying for us and for Soulcare for a long time. And I just thought, this is what has happened this past year. I wanted to let you know. And I had gone back over my calendar and realized that March, when the world shuts down, to December 31, 45 times I had been on someone's platform of some kind. That's quite a clip.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure many others had the same thing, but it's not to say it was unique to me, but it was like what I felt as I was praying about that and wrote that note to the team is I felt like God was just saying, look, I didn't cause this pandemic, but through it, I have opened a door that no one can shut.
Yeah. I would say, I would affirm something in you, which is I do think it's unique. I think you pioneered in a space, so I was coming to you going, what is going on? You're like, we're figuring it out. So I would say, no, I do think that has been like a unique area where God invited you in. But then the other part is you were crazy enough to say, now listen, I know a part of your story. There's a real comfy world that you could have said yes to.
Yeah.
And to go on this journey is not as comfy as the other journey. And so I do think there's like God takes in, like within church history, these little, like you were talking about it, like these just, you feel a little bit crazy, but you're like, I cannot stop what's inside of me, and I've got to kind of scratch that itch. Yeah. And the Spirit's like, come on, let's go. Let's check this out. Know. Like, it's weird, but go. Yeah.
A couple times I'd be like in my journal praying, like God, and how is this going to work out? And how's this going to work out? And how's this going to work out? And one time, this was like within the last few months, it's like, so how about you let me hold that? Are you ready? I mean, if you want to, literally one time it was like, Mindy, if you want to keep thinking about that, really have at it. Up to you. I've got the outcome. Yeah. Your call, hon. Your call.
I have a great Indian friend. He's a leader of an organization, NGO in India. He's a national. He's amazing. So I'm going to use an Indian accent. Yeah. I chaired the board for about 8 years. So I love the people in India. And so I call him after about a year after starting going, I don't know what's going on. What is God doing? What's this all about? And he goes, hey, man, don't worry about God's job. You just do your job. God will do a fine job. He does not need you to worry about his job. You just do your job.
I love that.
And I was like,
can you have him call me every once in a while too?
I was like, yes, that's right. I don't have to worry about God's job. I just have to do my job.
But Jeff, this goes all the way back to when my husband and I were church planting in Boston, okay, back in the 90s. And I remember sitting in this one chair. It was kind of like this in our like study or whatever it was, writing in my journal, having time with the Lord, whatever. And asking this, like, what am I supposed to do? How is this supposed to work? Whatever. And I had enough sort of corporate background before we were planting churches that I just sensed the Spirit kind of going like, remember when you used to work for Control Data and like, did you go into your boss every single day and say, what am I supposed to do?
That'd be so annoying.
I know, right? It was like unthinkable. You would never do that.
It's good.
And it's like, but I think what's kind of undoing and the research we've done on the Global South and all that kind of stuff, which has probably come out since you and I maybe last talked, is some of these narratives that get really mixed up is when we're working for God. And I still can fall into those things. Like God, like, what's the plan here? What am I doing? How is this all going to work out? And I have like this daily prayer of surrender. It's one of my core kind of spiritual practices. It was a prayer that was given in a frame to me. I want to say in, 1986. Long time ago. And it just traveled around to whatever desk I was on in cities. We moved across the country, I don't know, every year for the first 7 years we were married, every August. And then many locations since. And eventually the ink has actually faded off except for the first and the last word. But I'll say this prayer, but it'll give you a sense maybe of my mental mindset. I didn't realize I had inadvertently memorized it because I never sat down to memorize it, but because I was so familiar having prayed it for so long on whatever desk in whatever city I was in. But it just goes like this. Jesus, I am a humble, lowly servant. Take me, take all of me, add anything, take anything away, at any cost, with any price. Make me yours completely, wholly. And I thought about this part this morning as I was thinking of us today. May I not be remembered for the shape of my face or the way I wear my hair or the people I know or the crowds I've addressed, which I promise you at that time I had never addressed. I didn't even have a small group. May I be known for loving you, for carrying a dream, for building bridges to the lost and broken and hurting in this world. May I live this day as if you were in my place. May everything accomplished in my life bring honor and glory to you. And then the kicker at the end. Take my human faults and failures and use them to remind everyone who knows me that only you are God. And I will always just be Mindy.
Wow.
And I could show you this frame in my house. And now all you can see is the word Jesus and Mindy.
Wow.
It's kind of epic.
That's super epic.
Whoever wrote that thing.
And providential. Like
providential.
Yeah.
Right. They would have never had any idea.
That's amazing.
What they were going to. And so there has been this like, God, what are you doing here? I don't know this day, but I have surrendered it as best I know how. And you can add anything, you can take anything away. And some of the things that have been added have been unbelievable, both in good and hard. And some of the things that have been taken away, same thing, have been unbelievable, good and hard. But it just reorients me, usually before I get out of bed. Like that's a thing that I kind of work through prayerfully when I first wake up. But then sometimes I don't remember, and then it's at like 4 p.m. the next day. But those kinds of practices have helped me navigate some of the decisions to walk as a crazy, church planter, or now I've told people Soulcare was like, when I went back into this vocationally, they're like, how long ago did you start Soulcare? It's like, it's kind of like a 27-year-old startup. And I told that to this guy that like does venture capital and stuff like he's like, don't tell anybody that.
Those guys won't like that.
That's not what anyone wants to hear. I thought it was kind of charming and funny. But it is, it's God's to do what he wants to do with. Mm-hmm. And so catch us up to what today looks like for Phoenix One.
Yeah. I mean, really, it started with an invitation from a church going, hey, our staff's in 21, our staff's blown out and exhausted, and could you come and do something? And we said, sure.
Local to Phoenix?
Yep, local to Phoenix. And so we did that. And then really, we've done really no marketing. It's been kind of word of mouth. And it's one by one. And so what it is today is we kind of have two paths. We have an individual path, which is staff and spouses. And they come to us free of charge. We meet with them. And then we try to segue them into whatever's next. Then we say, we want to help you take the next step in health. So they come in with us, and we try to help them take the next step in health. So that's
is that like more of a triage moment?
Yeah,
like what's going on? What are the edges of this?
Exactly.
Where do they need
and that
to go?
could go into, I'm going to quit my church and I'm going to burn the bridges at the church. And we're like, well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about, honoring the Lord in that. What would that look like? And that's a hard conversation.
That is hard.
We want to help you do that well. We want you to honor the Lord even as you leave and do that. So that's on that side. And then on the organizational side, we've developed a few services. One of them's an app called Love Well. And it's assessment app. And so staff take an assessment for 3 months every week. It's about 90 seconds. And then we present back to the staff and leadership a quarter of data on basically how your staff is doing and how the organization is doing. So it's kind of we say, healthy organization starts with an honest assessment. So it's us kind of giving a safe space for staff to be honest. It's got a confessional in there that we don't share with anybody, but they can confess. It has an organizational confessional, which they can say, hey, here's some things that are going around that are really struggling with. And then we are able to, through some really cool filters, bring back to the leadership and go, hey, here's like 5 things that you're going to need to address in order to be able to get healthy. So we've done that. I really love that service. We have another service called All Staff Health Evaluation, where churches will hire us to meet with every single staff, every single spouse, and then we create care plans for them. So we'll meet with them for, again, a quarter, and then we present to them a care plan, which is kind of like going to a physical therapist, and you're like, man, something doesn't feel right. And he's like, okay, here's some exercises that you need to do. Here's some resources. We have a mentorship service that, we've trained up about 45 mentors that if they can't afford counseling, hey, we want to help you get a mentor. And a lot of people just don't need counseling. You just need a safe person to talk to.
Totally.
So we're parlaying them over into those mentors that we've kind of built and developed. And then recently last year, we got a grant to do church planner care plans. So we'll walk with a church planner. So we're doing that with 4 right now for 2 years.
Love it.
To basically go, hey, let's launch healthier churches. You know, there's a lot, I don't know, you know this, but there's a lot that goes into launching a church. And
yeah. I also serve on a church planning board.
Oh, that's awesome.
So yeah.
So we just want to get in there within the first couple of years and walk with you during that period of time every quarter.
Love it.
And then give you a care plan and say, hey, let's just check back in, see how you're doing. And then really give the spouse an opportunity to go, hey, stuff's not right. Or I need help. Or I need to talk to somebody, or we need to talk to somebody.
Yeah, I've been the spouse and the, I've been on both sides of these.
Yeah, so that's what it is right now. And we're really just kind of going like, if the individual gets healthy and the organization gets healthy and both of them go like, I'm the problem, then they can start to really work together. Unity, John 17, 22, 23 is really at the heart of everything we're doing. If the local church staff can get healthy and become one, the world will know the love of Christ.
Yeah, so. I've heard that somewhere. Jeff, how do you see the relationship between soul health for the people you're serving? Let's keep it to the individual side and their actual leadership. Yeah.
So we do a training, and it's know God, know yourself, know one another. And the linchpin is the know the God part. So we start there. What does it mean to know God, to be known by God? They list it out. And then what is it to know yourself? A lot of people really struggle with that one. And then what is it to know others? People have some idea, they struggle. And the whole idea is this: if I'm known by God and I sense I'm known by God, I will know myself. I won't be ashamed anymore. I won't be pretending anymore. I can be my true, authentic person that He's created me to be. And what that means is then I can go serve people selflessly. But if I'm not known by God, I won't know myself. And I'm constantly using other people to fulfill this insecurity, this pain, this wound, whatever that is. So that's part of what we're trying to do, is going, actually the center of all our problems is just this. Andrew Murray, in his book, I'm going to butcher the quote, Abide in Christ, he says, abiding in Christ is meant for the weak and feeble and is so rightly suited for them. It's not the bringing of something strong before a mighty God, but simply submitting one's weakness to the one who's strong. So it's coming back to this moment and going, wait a second, I can be okay with not having it all figured out. And what that allows me to do is I don't need a bunch of people following me. I just want to serve them like Jesus served them. And so within Jesus, we see somebody who's going, I just want to bless the Father. I want to obey the Father to the point I'll lay down my life. And within our leadership, there's not a ton of that, because I need you to follow me. And if you follow me, then I feel good about myself. And that's a disconnection between an understanding of who you are in Christ. So for us, it's trying to help people get back to that main thing. And there's lots of rhythms, there's lots of ways to help people do that.
Yeah, we've been talking a lot about rhythms at Soulcare. But it's our big deal right now.
At some point, we've got to go like, and part of my story was like, maybe there's a problem. Maybe my soul, I'm accomplishing a lot, but something's not there.
Right. Yeah, and we're reticent to admit that, especially if we don't feel like, I don't even have a category of solutions, so I don't even want to admit something might not be okay.
Yeah.
And with Soulcare, I'm always talking with people about like the soul. The only time we talk about the soul in most of the contexts that I was raised in spiritually is with reference to its sort of eternal destiny. Souls are saved or unsaved, they're lost or found, but once you're saved or found or whatever language you want to put around that, we have no reason to talk about your soul. Your job is to get about the business of helping other people make that decision, which again, not to diminish that, but we don't have yet a collective rhetoric or imagination for what the health of a soul means to an individual and what it would mean organizationally. So when you think about
it's the most important part of you.
Oh, well, yeah.
It's the part that is moved.
It drives everything.
And moves into eternity.
Yeah, whether you like it or not, whether you know it or not. My team knows I say this all the time. Whether you like it or not, whether you know it or not, your soul's well-being is driving everything that matters
100%.
to you.
I couldn't agree
everything.
more.
It's just street level, everything Jesus ever said. So What do you see as the relationship between, because now you're leading a nonprofit.
Yep.
And you've got money on the line, you've got a team, you've got strategy, you've got products, you've got clients, you've got all that. So you're leading. But you're leading, I'm going to guess, differently than you had in the past. And so what do you see in your own life when your soul, like our construct would be when your soul's doing well or not? And we all move back and forth between those all the time. So what do you... Let's stay on the, I call it soul neglect. It's benign neglect. Nobody sets out to do that. But, and maybe, hopefully you don't have many examples like that. But if there's ever a day when you're like, oh man, my sense of connection to God has just been evaporated for some reason.
Yeah.
How does that show up in your leadership? Not just broadly in your life, but in how you actually lead. Yeah,
actually this last year has been a big part of that. Part of the reason why I'm in Denver is to go reconnect. And, you know, I have a really wonderful, her name's Renee Wooster. She's on our board. And she says, you know, it's like a dog and they go out in the dirt and they roll around and then they shake off and they come in. And it's like letting that dog just stay and go like, well, the dog thinks it's cleaned itself, but it's not. All that stuff's stuck to it. You got to wash off. And a lot of the work that we do is like, you're taking on a lot, and you might shake to try to get it off, go on vacation, with things like that, or even these rhythms that I'm very committed to doing every morning. But there's something that's there. So this last year has really been, for me, the biggest area where I'm going to go sideways is exactly what happened this year, which is we didn't hit our goals. So 50% of all our goals are fundraising goals, the amount of people we wanted to reach, and that was really hard for me, really hard for me. And, you know, we really can't, we're EOS. Yeah. So we're integrated and we just kind of bent back and like, it's been so helpful for us, but actually I think we need to pause a little bit. And because there's something in my soul that it's not setting me up to really succeed as a leader. EOS is really interesting. Our team has read different books and embraced various thoughts, but we're sort of pressing on how to, I didn't mean this to be an EOS commentary here, but for us, we're trying to figure out, how do we make it soulful? Yeah. How do we make this aligned to, because we don't do things the way everybody says you should. Yeah, and which is really what ended up happening. I mean, I would say we have the infrastructure to scale. It's just that we're in the space of the Spirit. And I have been very mindful, I always hated when churches wanted to act like business but didn't want to evaluate themselves like businesses. They get real spiritual when stuff didn't work out. So they would act like a business. So right. They would act like a business
We're
until
all, Jim Collins.
Yeah, exactly. Until stuff doesn't work out,
and then the Lord takes away.
Exactly. Just must not be the season the Lord. You know, or maybe Satan's coming up against us, or
Jeff, that's hilarious.
So I always go, you want to act like a business, so you have to act like a business, and so I'm really mindful about that for myself. Yeah. But I think at this moment, we just went like, this isn't working for us. And hard. I sat with our board in December and said, I could have accomplished every goal that we had set out to do, but I would have had to come against relationship. I'd have had to do relationship differently. And I would rather not scale. I'm not doing that anymore. No. And I think that's the change. Yeah. So my dog returning to vomit is I just used people to accomplish something, and I feel good about myself. See, I've done a good work. We have a 2030 goal of helping 5,000 church staff and spouses get healthier. That's a great goal. But if it's not what the Lord wants, or if it means I have to compromise, like spending time with somebody, like, no, thank you. No. And so we've had faith. We've had to do a reset. Good. And that's a part of this. The board I just said, hey, I think I just need to get my head up again. I think my head's been so down, starting a new thing, getting it off the ground, get it going. And I want to get my head up. I want to make sure that I am prioritizing people the way Jesus did and sacrificing for people. And the board's been so kind and so generous. And And I think, I find that the Lord has a great amount of humor around me. Like, oh boy, look at you driving so hard, And I think he loves that about me. I really do. I don't think he's like, hey, cut that out. Like, stop that. I think he loves it. He's like, just make sure you're constantly listening to me. Make sure that doesn't get out of balance. And so I think it was moving in that direction.
Yeah.
And I could feel it in my soul when I felt failure. Like for me, I'm a 3 on the Enneagram.
Yeah.
What are you?
I don't know. I'm Ennea confused.
Ennea confused.
Yeah. It's usually bait for anybody who really cares about this stuff.
I don't care about that much.
We'll have a great conversation.
I don't care that deeply.
Later, my husband will be there. We'll kind of chat through all it.
And... But so I'm a driver. I want to accomplish. I want to make things happen. But really that shadow side for me is I start using people to go do that. And that's been the helpful part of it for me, of just going like, oh man, I think that got out of alignment a bit. And so, I feel like I'm in a realignment. One of the things
I loved the most about Enneagram when people first started talking about it, like in the early 2000s is when it kind of got on my radar. When one of my mentors and then another friend that kind of was like spiritual friendship, both of them, separately independent from one another, started talking to me about how understanding where they fell on that assessment or continuum, not quite continuum, but it was giving them language for actually repentance.
Same.
And if I know anything to be true about the soul, when we come to grips with here's a line and here's where I crossed it and I need to be known in this, anything that drives us toward a moment of confession, that is sacred. That is holy ground. We take off our shoes. It's a hard thing for most of us to get to because we're so defended and so self-protected, and myself included. And so when I heard my friends becoming more vocal and articulate about what in their life they wanted to be repentant over, and then I saw the fruit of that, I was like, all right, I don't know what I think about this assessment, but I can side with that.
Yeah.
And then with it's Soulcare, we're talking about soul health and soul neglect and what are the symptoms. And Enneagram was the first one that was kind of creating a framework for what is a 3 when it's healthy.
Yeah.
And what is a 3 when it's not healthy. And that's what I know for sure is how the human soul works.
Agreed.
And when we're healthy, and we would define health as the real time in the moment sense of connection with God, and whatever relationships, practices, rhythms support that, great. But what we're striving for is not any of those things. It's the connection. It's the abiding you were mentioning, right? And so when that connection is alive, and even no matter how harrowing and terrible the circumstances might be, we show up differently. We could be a healthy 3 or a healthy whatever. Everybody can maybe start conjecturing.
Everyone who knows you's like, oh, I typecast her. They would love to tell you who you are. They would love to tell you who you are.
But I.
Oh shoot.
Yeah, but the converse is true. Is when through somebody said this to me recently. He didn't even know what he said, but it's like we get distracted, we get deceived, and we get discouraged.
Yes.
And those are the things that can kind of yank us out of the real-time sense of connection with God. And again, nobody sets out, this is not your, New Year's resolution to trash the well-being of your soul. But those things happen.
Well, even like Matthew 6, he goes, don't be anxious, which a version of that word, if you parse it out, is like, don't be distracted. And so what does he do? We're all distracted on whatever that is. And he goes, look at the birds. And so he takes that distraction, he focuses on something, and he's like, look at the flowers, and then look at you. Like I care about you more than all those things. And then he goes, why worry about tomorrow? And seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. All these things will be so it's like a refocus. It's all this other stuff that's invading and becoming very distracting for us. And Satan loves to distract. Takes Eve's eyes off of who she is in God and in this place that he's done. He says, look at this and look at this thing that you want, and he's not giving it to you. Yeah. But I love in Matthew 6 that Jesus kind of refocuses us. And so that's why that passage is really important for me, because it was like, oh wait, there's all this stuff that doesn't make just look at the birds. So I'm watching my hummingbirds and I'm like, look at you guys. It's kind of crazy. Hummingbirds
defy physics.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. I have been collecting sparrows over the years because of that very reason. Is I just want in certain times when I'm struggling for whatever reason, I like to have physical things that remind me of because I do get distracted, right? And it's like, oh no, there's my sparrow. Remember, Mindy.
Yeah.
So, so what are some of your hopes for coming out of your time in Denver?
I really want to commit to trying to figure out why progress is so important for me. And why, like today, we joked a little bit of like everything about today was wrong.
The terrible, awful, no good, very bad day, Jeff Gokee
but
style.
I do think it was supposed to happen that way to help me go, I'm alive, I'm safe, I have a family that loves me. I get to meet with somebody that I've been talking to for years and never gotten to actually meet in person.
So
like
fun.
to recenter that and come back, as opposed to this didn't work out and this didn't work out. And all my intentions were this and this, and that felt all really distracting. So I think a part of it is that the word I've been asking the Lord, could you just help me, give me something? And I was journaling in December, and the word that came to me when I was journaling was, don't finish my sentence for me. And I think that's what I'm trying to figure out. I think I'm so busy because I actually think I know, and I think he knows I know, and I think he's like, I just want you to be here with me. Like, I'm going to let you know when you need to know. You're so busy trying to make that thing happen. You already feel it in your soul. You can see it. I can see it. But I just want you to be here with me. So what if we didn't progress in the way you wanted to, but you got to let me, finish my sentence for your life, finish my sentence for Phoenix One, finish my sentence for this thing that I've invited you into. And so I think it's a part of that. I think it's trying to figure out how to create a rhythm, a rule of life to allow myself to just listen and wait for him to finish his sentence, as opposed to me. I've been finishing sentences for years.
And you're good at it.
I am.
I think there is a new invitation, though.
Exactly.
That's a really beautiful awareness for you.
It's
It's not that you've been misguided all these times, but it's like he's arresting your attention right now to say, pay attention.
Yeah.
And there's a new way of doing things.
Yeah, and that's come out of just a really interesting year of going, stuff didn't happen, the way
you wrote the sentence.
Oh man, we just had amazing things. Like we started off 25, like up and to the right. This is, this study's going to happen, and this staff member is going to come on, and this funding's going to, and none of it happened. And it wasn't because I wasn't working hard or I'm not, strategic or, and I just went like, whoa, wait a second. And there's my soul again, getting attached to the thing that it's just out there. It's Gollum, and it's just it's the precious. And so I'm trying to, I think, I'm aware, and now it's going like, why do I keep coming back to this thing? And it promises me so much and never delivers, and it's always costly. But I think in this season of my life, what I'm grateful for is that I'm at least aware.
Yeah. And how do you, and even like the wise, God might reveal that, he might not. But the bigger question is, how do you unfurl the fist, right? How do you
100%
let go of those outcomes, do what the best you can, never violate those relationships? I really want to commend you. Yeah. Whatever that looked like this past year. No, these are the shortcuts that get taken all over the place.
And that's I think you nailed it. There's small movements away from the very thing he laid on your heart, and you don't even see it. And I think you're right. I think it's just these small little compromises around the way. And then, these are all the people we work with. It's just these small compromises. And then one day you're like, how did that happen?
It's what my Instagram feed is full of. It's what the sort of the general ethos is. And so we're bringing, I think, a contrarian way. And, not for the sake of being contrarian, but for the sake of helping ourselves live into the life that God's made available. And then allowing whatever we offer others to come out of that overflow.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
When you wake up in the morning and you think about what you do, what gets you most excited?
there's a lot. The first thing that's coming to my mind is, because I was telling you earlier, we just finished a call with a team member, and I love getting to work with amazing people. The stuff that I've loved in many different work contexts before, but people are amazing. Humans are amazing. And they have incredible gifts and great wisdom, and they bring humor and strategy and love and care and ideas that I would never have. And so I do get very energized whenever I get time with the people that God has brought in. We've had to say goodbye to some team members because we've had years like the one you just described. And that is the worst, the worst. But we're all still friends. If somebody were writing me big checks, I'd be like, all right, I got 5 phone calls I'm ready to make.
Well, I know.
But in the meantime, and until then, if the Lord would allow, the people is a big thing. And then we've gotten better, our team, it's all initiated from them, but we've gotten better at soliciting feedback from our contact list, our emails, our products, our downloads, our free stuff, everything. Like almost every portal that somebody might engage with us asks a really quick question of like, why were you interested in this? And I mean, you want a motivation to stay in the game, you start reading some of those comments. People all over the world who are in sometimes impossible situations, who are struggling to keep their soul alive in the midst of very devoted, committed service. Man, Jeff, I want to be that breath of fresh air that they need. I want to be on behalf of whoever God brings our way, that sort of prophet of Ezekiel, walking among these bones and God going, son of man or daughter of man, can these bones live? And I'm going, you alone know. And there's this great song by Elevation Worship that I've been sharing everywhere lately that's called When Wind Meets Fire, which for me, with the fires in Boulder and the wind and the fire and whatever, it's like such a big topic for me. But some of the lyrics talk about Ezekiel 37 and talk about that when God asks, can these bones live? He doesn't answer the question with words, he answers with wind. And I even just get chills thinking about that lyric. And so that's often my waking thought is, God, would you use us? Would you use these very simple electronic ways of staying connected, or in-person ways or spiritual direction appointments or retreats or gatherings or whatever it is, to be part of this wave of healing that you're bringing? Would you breathe life into these slain?
Yeah.
And what we know from Ezekiel is that they say they felt cut off and their hope was gone, but they stood up on their feet, a vast army. I believe there's an army of people out there globally who are faithful, loyal, committed to Jesus, committed to his purposes, committed to the kingdom, and have just gotten sideways. There was a time when one of my sons, and he was just learning how to swim, and we often tell this story because he's so kind. He's inflexibly kind. It's like my husband and I were like, our one parenting goal is to not ruin you. And he now works with our team. And so now everybody else gets to see how he's wired. But anyway, as a little toddler, we were walking in maybe thigh-deep water in a lake in upstate New York. And he's like walking along, toddling along, and I used to be a lifeguard, so he fell under the water. I think there were some waves, and he fell under the water. And when you've been a lifeguard, you start counting the minute a head goes down, especially a child, because you don't want to just scoop them up. They're going to figure themselves out. But I'm okay. I'm counting 1. I'm counting 2. I'm counting 3. I don't know. At some count, I'm like, all right, it's time. So I yank him up. But I could before, it was a very clear lake with a sandy bottom, and I could see that his head here, his feet were kicking out this way, and he was trying to stand up, but he was sideways. And no matter how many times he stood up on his little legs, that was never going to work until he got righted. And I yanked him, and And he sputtered, and he just this cute little kid. He's like, "Thank you, mommy." The kid thanks you when you pull him out of the water. Oh my gosh, of course, honey. Yeah. Anyway, he went on, and it was a complete non-issue in his world. But I so vividly remember that, not only because he was so cute and saying thank you, but also because how easy it is for any of us to just get hit by a wave. And we're doing the thing we always knew to do, and we're pushing our legs, but it's not working anymore.
Yeah.
And I think those are the people you're serving. I think those are the people I'm serving. I think those are the people who increasingly in the kingdom are starting to collectively say, wait, maybe there's breath. Maybe it's not a massive change. Maybe I don't have to blow up my church and leave everything I don't have to, maybe there's a way to stand up and breathe, but I'm shooting my legs out the wrong way. I keep doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. And anyway, that's what, there's a lot of things that keep me motivated. And then just the call of the Lord, you know, it's like when he, as best I can discern, this is, in other seasons, he's called me to give of my energies leadership wise and teaching and whatever to my kids in one season, being home, in other seasons, church planting, working at big churches, working in a variety of ways, and then at Glue. But, and all of them, I think, were expressions of the call. But in this season, when I got to the end of 2020, started some new conversations with the CEO and felt like it's time. Yeah. It's time.
Well, for what it's worth, I'm grateful for your life. And I mean that sincerely. Not because you do and you're awesome, but I think from the very beginning, you were and still are a great encouragement to me, because there are people that have gone before you. And I think that, and you're still here and you're still doing this. And that's such an encouragement, to me, to hey, there's others of us that are kind of trying to figure this out, and you kind of feel like a crazy person sometimes. Yeah. So you've just been a really huge encouragement to me. So. And I'm so grateful that God's got you doing what you're doing. Because I think you would resonate with this. I can't believe the Lord's letting me be a part of this section of church history. Mm-hmm. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. And so I just really have a sense that we're getting to participate in something that they're going to write some pretty cool books about.
I love that.
And I and you and me and some others get to be a part of that. And so, so I'm just really grateful.
Thank you. It's very kind. It is an honor to have been at it long enough that I can provide that sort of down the road encouragement. Mm-hmm. But you are in a vital city, walking with leaders in a vital way. And I do want to just affirm that and encourage everyone to get in touch, figure out how to follow up with what you're doing. Because it is vitally needed, and anything I can do to be encouraging around that, I'm happy to. But I want you to pause, maybe just as a final word. Mm-hmm. I think it'd be really cool if you could imagine that maybe some of the others who are listening are like ourselves, maybe on the cusp of making a leap to make this a vocational commitment or an avocational. Maybe they keep their day job, but now they're starting to realize they have that X-ray vision that you were talking about. Yeah. What would you say to them?
Starts with you. I've spent most of my life thinking about them, and I needed to start thinking about me. Mm-hmm. And so I always say, and I've run this past my mentors, but it's a holy selfishness. Like Jesus feeds the 5,000, releases them to the Spirit of God, to the care of God, to go around the lake. He releases his disciples to the boat, and they need him so that he can release himself to the Father. And I think we've got to first let go of the people we're leading so that we can be led. And so I think it is truly going, okay, what do you want to do in me? Mm-hmm. And then the outflowing of that is the work that the Spirit does, and the energy that Jesus has as he kind of re-engages back with the people that he's feeding and teaching, and the people that he's leading, so that he can continue to stay obedient to the Father. So
it's good. It's good. Holy selfishness.
Holy selfishness.
That's a good thing to take home. Well, I look forward to continuing our conversation more and more in the future. And Godspeed over your time in Colorado. It's been a very healing place for us and many others. And for as long as God has you here, blessings.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Glad you're here. Stay tuned again. We'll be back.